Politics is a man's world, a cliché which is still the reality in many European countries. After years of struggle, there are cracks in the glass ceiling, but the higher up the scale we get, the fewer female faces we see.
They want to treat you like a real woman, so they want to be very gentle and open the door before you. But one of the slogans of feminists was that we want you to open us not door to the house, but the door to the parliament.
Inside the Houses of Parliament in EU countries, there is one woman for every 3 men. 10 years ago, exactly 22% held a parliamentary seat. Today, that figure has risen to just 27%. But the picture is a mixed one. Huge gaps exist from one country to another. For example, Sweden, Finland and Spain are approaching 40%, whereas Hungary, Cyprus and Romania have fewer than 15% women in their parliaments. Poland is making great strides to bridge that gap. With less than a quarter of women in parliament, the country is below the European average. Western-style feminism was largely prohibited in the country until 1989. However, a feminist revolution has been underway for a few years now. Wanda Nowicka is a leading feminist and vice president of the parliament and wastes no time in condemning certain tactics at play in the corridors of power.
When a woman talks in the gathering dominated by men, usually men don't listen to her. They just immediately engage with, I don't know, iPad or conversations with others. So for many women it's very difficult to face this because immediately she thinks that she's not worthy, that she doesn't say important things, because if she were, they would listen to her.
Getting women's voices heard is the aim of a movement which has seen unexpected success. Known as the Women's Congress, it was established just 4 years ago. Every year, thousands of women gather in this grand auditorium in Warsaw, alongside a few men, including the Prime Minister. Henryka Bokniasz is one of its founding members and a very influential character in the business world. She remembers how the civil movement was born, on the eve of the 20th anniversary of the fall of the communist regime.
There was a group of friends, women, and we realized that looks like the entire change in Poland was done by men. So we discussed, okay, let's make a seminar on the role of women in the transformation. But when we started discussion on the program, seminar is not enough, so maybe a conference, okay, then 2-day conference. And we ended up with this huge event in Warsaw with 5,000 women that showed up. We didn't know anybody, it was completely informal. And after the first Congress, there was no way to finish. Because there was huge demand and everybody was asking, what about the next one? We need the next one.
The first fruits of their labour were born in 2011, when a law imposing a 35% minimum for women on electoral lists was adopted. Though some see it as another form of discrimination, the woman behind the measure believes it's a proven method.
The quota meant that parties began taking an interest in women. During the elections which followed the law's introduction, the number of women who stood in the elections doubled.
The number of women elected did in fact increase, but by a mere 4%, as some parties placed their female candidates at the bottom of the list, limiting their chances of winning. Across Europe, 89% of leaders of political parties are men. In Poland, not one single woman has led the main political groups. The work of the Women's Congress is far from over. According to sociologist Małgorzata Fuszara, they should turn their focus away from the city and towards the countryside, the bastion of conservatism.
The most important is that women in countryside feel much more legitimized to advocate women's rights, to go for improvement of women's situation. They organize these congresses everywhere, and more local governments are supportive for them, there is a kind of, let's say, cooperation or common game of the women movement and the local governments.
In Poland, the trend is positive. It seems that more and more people in the society, as well in the political class, understand politics without women cannot continue. That women are needed and necessary in politics in order to change the politics and in order to address the issues important for women.
The figures point to a real change in attitudes towards women in positions of power. But it may be some time before women take up places at the head of state.